Have you ever wondered why some women seem so unreachable? No desperation, no drama, not even the slightest hint that they're looking for someone to save them. The answer isn't coldness, past hurt, or fear of intimacy. It lies in something more uncomfortable, more unsettling, something that threatens everything we've been taught about what women need to be happy. Because when a woman chooses her own company over empty connections, she isn't missing out. She's tuning in, and that kind of inner alignment doesn't come with praise, social approval, or easy explanations. It comes with silence, self-respect, and a kind of wholeness most people have never experienced. No, she's not bitter. She's awake. She's not afraid of love. She just stopped confusing need with love, possession with care, and availability with worth. There's something profoundly disturbing about a woman who has made peace with herself. Because that shatters the illusion of dependency, destroys the myth that women exist to be completed by others, and exposes a terrifying truth. Most people don't know how to relate to someone who doesn't need them to feel valuable. And most women are still discovering what it means to look into that mirror of self-possession and recognize their own reflection. Here's what nobody wants to admit. The world doesn't fear single women because they're broken. It fears them because they're whole. There's something deeply threatening about a woman who has looked at all the options society offered her, all the relationships that required her to shrink, all the love that came with conditions, and said, "No, thank you. I'd rather be alone." Carl Jung understood that what we can't accept in ourselves, we project onto others. And when the world looks at this woman, what they're really seeing is their own unhealed relationship with solitude, their own terror of being alone with themselves, their own desperate need for external validation. She becomes a mirror that reflects back everything others are running from. The person who calls her too picky is usually someone who settled for crumbs and resents her for refusing to do the same. The one who insists she must be damaged is often drowning in their own dysfunction but too afraid to face it. The voices that tell her she's being unrealistic are coming from people who gave up on their own standards long ago. But here's the part that makes it even more unsettling. She's not trying to prove anything to anyone. She's not on a crusade to convert others to her lifestyle. She's simply living authentically. And that authenticity without agenda, that contentment without compromise, that peace without explanation is what makes her so dangerous to a system built on insecurity and need. The uncomfortable truth is this: her very existence challenges the foundational lie that women need to be completed by someone else. And when that lie crumbles, everything built on top of it starts to shake. While most people spend their energy managing someone else's emotions, avoiding difficult conversations, or hiding behind the distraction of partnership drama, the woman who chooses solitude faces something far more challenging. She faces herself, completely, without buffer, without excuse, without anywhere to hide. Carl Jung called this individuation, and he warned that it was the most difficult journey a human being could undertake. It's the process of becoming whole, not by finding your other half, but by integrating all the parts of yourself you've been taught to reject. The angry part, the demanding part, the part that refuses to settle, the part that won't be molded into someone else's fantasy. This woman has walked through her own psychological underworld. She's faced the inherited trauma, the generational patterns of women who accepted less, the toxic programming about what love should look like. She sat with her demons until they stopped being demons and started being teachers. She's unlearned the lies about her worth being tied to someone else's choice to stay. Most people in relationships never do this work because they don't have to. They can project their unhealed wounds onto their partner, blame their unhappiness on external circumstances, or lose themselves so completely in another person that they never have to confront who they actually are. But she doesn't have that luxury. Every fear, every insecurity, every limiting belief sits with her in the silence until she either faces it or gets consumed by it. And she chose to face it. She chose to do the brutal work of excavating her authentic self from beneath layers of conditioning and expectation. The result? She knows herself in a way that most people never will. She's comfortable with her complexity, at peace with her contradictions, and unafraid of her own depths. She's integrated her shadow not by eliminating it, but by understanding it. And that integration creates a wholeness that doesn't need external validation to survive. This is why her standards seem impossible to others. Because once you've done this level of inner work, you can't unknow what you know. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't go back to relationships that require you to abandon yourself. There's a reason why her presence changes the energy in every room she enters. It's not mystical, it's psychological. When someone has achieved genuine wholeness, they become a living mirror that reflects back everything others are missing. And that reflection is almost unbearable for those still living in fragments. Jung taught us that the things that trigger us most in others are usually the things we can't accept in ourselves. So when people see this woman's contentment without partnership, her peace without external validation, her completeness without needing to be chosen, it forces them to confront their own desperate need for these things. She threatens more than just social expectations. She threatens the entire emotional economy that most relationships are built on. An economy based on scarcity, on need, on the fear of being alone. She's living proof that this economy is artificial, that abundance is possible, that you can be whole without being half of something else. Men who have built their identity around being needed suddenly feel useless around her. She doesn't need rescuing, protecting, or completing. She needs partnership, consciousness, and growth. And most haven't developed those skills because they've never had to. Women still trapped in the cycle of seeking validation feel exposed by her self-possession. Her ability to say no without explanation, to choose solitude over settling, to prioritize her inner voice over social pressure, reflects back their own abandoned relationship with themselves. But here's what makes the mirror effect even more powerful. She's not trying to make anyone uncomfortable. She's not preaching or judging or trying to convert anyone to her way of living. She's simply being herself, fully and without apology. And that authenticity cuts through pretense like a blade through silk. The most triggering part isn't what she says, it's what she represents. She represents the possibility of a different way of being, a way that doesn't require self-abandonment, doesn't demand constant performance, doesn't need external approval to feel worthy. And for people who have built their entire lives on the opposite foundation, that possibility is terrifying. Because if she can be happy alone, what's their excuse for staying in relationships that diminish them? If she can find fulfillment without a partner, what does that say about their desperate clinging? If she can love herself enough to wait for what she actually wants, why are they settling for what they think they can get? Here's where most people get it completely wrong. They see a woman alone and immediately assume loneliness. They project their own fear of solitude onto her experience and miss the profound difference between being alone because you have no choice and choosing solitude because you understand its value. Loneliness is a state of disconnection. You can feel lonely in a crowded room, lonely in a marriage, lonely surrounded by people who don't really see you. Loneliness is about the absence of authentic connection, the feeling that no one truly understands who you are beneath the surface. But chosen solitude? That's sanctuary. That's the conscious decision to prioritize quality over quantity, depth over superficiality, truth over convenience. The woman we're talking about isn't lonely. She's selective. She isn't isolated. She's protective of something sacred, the self she fought so hard to reclaim. She's been in relationships that felt like losing herself piece by piece. She's loved people who only wanted the easy parts of her, never the complex, beautiful mess that she actually is. She's given until she was empty, hoping that emptiness would somehow be enough to earn the love she craved. But somewhere in that process, she woke up. And that awakening changed everything. Now when she chooses to stay home instead of accepting invitations that feel hollow, it's not antisocial behavior. It's energy management. When she says no to dates that promise everything but offer nothing substantial, it's not fear of intimacy. It's respect for intimacy. When she walks away from situations that require her to perform rather than simply be, it's not giving up on love. It's refusing to mistake performance for love. Her solitude has become sacred space, a place where she can hear her own thoughts without someone else's agenda drowning them out, where she can feel her own feelings without having to manage someone else's emotional state, where she can dream her own dreams without editing them to fit someone else's comfort level. This isn't the isolation of someone who's given up. This is the sanctuary of someone who's learned the difference between being wanted for who you are and being wanted for what you provide, between being loved and being needed, between partnership and possession. The world wants to fix what it sees as her problem, but she's not broken. She's whole. And wholeness, Jung would tell you, is the most threatening thing you can achieve in a world built on fragments. But here's what they don't understand about this woman. Her standards aren't impossible. They're evolved. She's not rejecting love. She's rejecting everything that masquerades as love but is actually control, possession, need, or the desperate attempt to avoid dealing with one's own emptiness. The love she's waiting for won't be desperate or demanding. It won't require her to prove herself worthy or earn her place. It won't ask her to dim her intensity or shrink her dreams or quiet the very voice that called her back to herself. It will celebrate the journey that brought her to wholeness. It will honor the work she's done. It will recognize the rare gift of being chosen by someone who doesn't need you but wants you anyway. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of the union of individuated people. Not two broken halves trying to make a whole, but two complete individuals choosing to share their completeness. Not salvation, but celebration. Not filling a void, but overflowing abundance. When that kind of love arrives, it won't rescue her from her solitude. It will understand that her need for space isn't rejection, but the very thing that makes authentic intimacy possible. It will appreciate that her boundaries aren't walls, but the framework that creates safety for vulnerability. It will see her depth not as something to manage, but as an ocean to explore together. Until then, she waits. Not desperately, not bitterly, but with the patience of someone who knows her own worth. She waits like someone who's already found the treasure and is simply deciding whether to share it. She waits like someone who's learned that the right person will see her complexity as richness, not complication. And if that person never comes, she's already whole. The love she's built with herself is already complete. If they do come, it won't be completion, but expansion. Not rescue, but partnership. Not the end of her journey, but a new adventure with someone who's done their own work. This is the difference between settling and choosing, between needing and wanting, between surviving relationships and thriving in connection. She's not holding out for perfection, she's holding out for consciousness. And in a world full of people running from themselves, that's revolutionary. The woman who chooses solitude over settling isn't missing out on love. She's refusing to mistake anything less than love for the real thing. She's not afraid of intimacy. She's protective of it. She's not running from connection. She's waiting for connection that doesn't require self-abandonment. Carl Jung said that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But transformation requires two complete substances, not two fragments hoping the other will make them whole. She understands this. She's done the work to become whole, and now she waits, not for someone to complete her, but for someone ready to be transformed alongside her. That's not asking too much. That's asking for everything, and she's learned that she deserves everything. This is the revolution Jung predicted. Not loud, not violent, but absolutely unstoppable. The revolution of individuals who refuse to abandon themselves for the comfort of others, who choose consciousness over convention, depth over superficiality, truth over performance. She's not trying to inspire anyone or prove anything to the world. She's simply living by a different set of rules. Rules that say her peace matters more than others' opinions, that her wholeness is more valuable than their approval, that her authentic self is worth more than any relationship that requires her to be someone else. And in choosing herself again and again, she's not just changing her own life, she's changing what's possible. She's proving that there's another way to be human, a way that doesn't require constant compromise, doesn't demand self-abandonment, doesn't measure worth by relationship status. If something stirred in you while listening to this, if you recognized yourself or felt that familiar ache of being misunderstood, then you know. You know this isn't about being anti-love or anti-relationship. This is about being pro-authentic, pro-conscious, pro-whole. This is about the quiet revolution of simply being who you are, completely and without apology. And in a world that profits from our insecurities, that kind of wholeness isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. If these words found you at exactly the moment you needed to hear them, or if they awakened something you thought you'd lost, then I ask you not to let this end here. Share this with someone who needs to remember that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's sacred. Like this video, leave a comment about what resonated with you and subscribe to this channel. Not because I'm asking you to, but because something deeper is calling you to. Because when truth touches your soul, the only way to honor it is to let it ripple outward, through you and beyond you.